Good morning. You're listening to the Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I am Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. As usual on this show, we start with what's most important, our health. This morning, let's get under the skin, literally, and talk about massages. I think most of us appreciate a good massage. But why do they work? How does getting rid of a muscle knot result in that much relief? We tend to think of a massage as relaxation or luxury, but what it really does is restore your body's internal wiring. When you overuse a muscle, whether it be from exercise, posture, or even stress, tiny fibers inside it tear and contract. That contraction traps metabolites like lactic acid, cuts off oxygen flow, and irritates nearby nerves. The pain you feel isn't damage, it's a chemical SOS. When a massage therapist applies pressure, several things happen at once. First, the mechanical compression pushes fresh blood through those restricted areas, washing out the metabolic waste and flooding the muscle with oxygen and nutrients. That alone starts to dissolve the burn. Second, the massage stimulates mechanoreceptors. These are tiny sensors in the skin and fascia that send signals up the spinal cord to the brain. Those signals compete directly with pain signals, effectively closing the pain gate. It's a phenomenon called gate control theory. Your brain can only process so many sensory messages at once, so when touch dominates, pain gets quiet. At the same time, deeper pressure stretches connective tissue and fascia, the web that holds your muscles together. That stretch triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and repair mode. Your heart rate drops, blood pressure lowers, cortisol, the stress hormone, dips. In return, your brain releases endorphins and serotonin, nature's own painkillers and mood elevators. That's the euphoric calm you feel after a good session. Modern imaging even shows that massage reduces inflammatory cytokines, the same messengers that amplify soreness after a tough workout or injury. So physiologically, massage doesn't just mask pain. It resets the inflammatory balance, improves circulation, and reprograms your nervous system's sensitivity to pain. In other words, massage helps your body remember what normal feels like. Think of it this way. Your muscles are like tangled earphones in your pocket. Every knot blocks the signal a little more and traps inflammation. Massage is the patient wire untangling, restoring flow, sound, and clarity. So, the next time someone calls it pampering, tell them it's neurovascular maintenance, the quiet science of touch. Now it's time for the news, and this one is heavy. 2 West Virginia National Guard members were shot and critically wounded near the White House on Wednesday. Police say the suspect is Rahmanullah Lakanwal, an Afghan national who was later arrested after being wounded in the exchange. Investigators are still digging into motive, but the political fallout started almost immediately. Within hours, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced it was halting all immigration requests tied to Afghan nationals indefinitely while it reviews vetting procedures. And President Trump called the attack an act of terror, ordering a full audit of every Afghan admission granted under what he calls the Biden-era resettlement pipeline. Now, if that sounds familiar, it is. Lakanwal reportedly entered the U.S. through Operation Allies Welcome, the 2021 effort to resettle Afghans who fled Taliban control or aided U.S. forces during the withdrawal. Tens of thousands came here under that program, many on temporary humanitarian parole, while their asylum or visa cases moved through a long, slow system. Advocates are warning that this blanket freeze could trap thousands still waiting abroad. People who risked their lives alongside Americans. Think of the movie Covenant, and are now stuck in places like Pakistan, where authorities have begun deporting undocumented Afghans back to Taliban territory. Reuters reports families already on flights out of Kabul were told to turn around mid-journey. For them, this pause isn't paperwork, it's life or death. Critics say Washington is punishing an entire population for one man's actions. Supporters argue national security must come first, and that it's time to re-examine how those 80,000+ arrivals were vetted in the first place. So, the question this morning isn't just what happened in DC, it's what happens next. Because this shooting has instantly become a turning point in US immigration and refugee policy. One that could redefine how America treats the very allies it once promised to protect. We'll keep following the investigation as more details come out from the FBI and DHS later today. Continuing with tech and culture. Part 2 of the How We Think series. Truth tables of the mind. Every decision you make, from what to eat to who to trust, starts with a tiny mental formula. If this, then that. It's the most ancient algorithm in the world. A truth table, built not in silicon but in synapse. George Boole turned that idea into mathematics in the 1800s. He showed that reasoning itself could be mapped, a grid of true and false that could capture how thought flows. But long before Boole, the brain was already doing it. Every "if I touch fire equals I get burned." Every "if I smile equals they smile back." Logic became survival. The mind is full of these invisible tables. Each cell holds a possible outcome, a quick equation of risk and reward. We don't see them, but we feel their weight. It's why we hesitate before speaking, why we predict reactions, why we can read a room before anyone says a word. For some brains, especially autistic ones, those tables are vivid, almost conscious. There's a kind of mental transparency. Rules are explicit, honesty feels safer than nuance, and social life can feel like a constant logic puzzle with missing pieces. It's not cold or mechanical, it's protective. It's the brain trying to make sense of a world that breaks its own rules. And here's the paradox. Machines envy that same clarity. Our algorithms, from social media feeds to self-driving cars, run on Boolean if-then patterns too. They copy the logic but not the context. They can tell what's true but not what's kind. Humans, meanwhile, do both. We reason and we empathize. We use truth tables, but bend their edges with compassion. We can override the equation when love or mercy demands it. That's what makes our logic humane. Boole gave us the framework. Depending on where you sit on the neurodivergent spectrum, will dictate your comfort or need for its precision. Emotion then completes the circuit. So next time you second-guess a choice, remember what your brain is quietly doing. Testing rows, weighing columns, searching for the truth that feels right. 1,000 micro-Boolean calculations, all to answer one timeless question. If I take this action, then who will I be? And others are using these same Boolean truth tables to determine if who you say you are is congruent with your actions. As humans, some of us rely very heavy on this form of logic to map our world. Tomorrow, we expand on emotion and/or logic. Now for the lighter roast. Continuing with Love by the Numbers, Part 3, The Psychology of Filtering. So far, we've learned that love is rare and the math is cruel. But sometimes, the biggest barrier isn't out there. It's in here, in the way we filter, judge, and swipe through people like we're auditioning a cast we already pre-wrote. Let's be honest. We all think we're great at spotting chemistry, but science says we're not. In fact, we're riddled with what psychologists call cognitive biases, those quiet mental shortcuts that mess up our sense of who might actually be good for us. There's similarity bias. We fall for people who look, sound, or think like us because it feels safe. There's the halo effect. We meet someone attractive and instantly assume they're kind, funny, and probably amazing with dogs. And then there's projection bias. We decide what someone must be thinking or wanting because it's what we want. That one's a dating classic move. Then there are unrealistic expectations when competing for very limited resources, referring to characteristics that make someone more likely to be attractive. As most men are not Brad Pitt or as rich as Bezos, and most women are not Hadid's sisters or Margot Robbie. But here's the funny part. The more options we have, the worse our brains get. This is the paradox of choice, or tyranny of choice. Choice overload makes us shallower and less likely to make a choice. Of course, dating apps rely on this glitch of the human mind to keep us scrolling and buying more tokens. You start treating dating like scrolling a menu, but nobody wants to be someone's appetizer. Apps were supposed to expand our world, but they've turned dating into an algorithmic paradox. Infinite access, limited attention. You can reject 10 people in 10 seconds, but you can't build real chemistry that fast. It's why some of the happiest couples still say, "It just felt easy." Because connection isn't a checklist, it's a pause. So maybe the problem isn't that the world is short on love. Maybe we're just filtering too fast to see it. Next time you find yourself mid-swiping, maybe ask, would I have liked this person if I'd met them in real life, without filters, bios, or prompts? Because odds are, your soulmate might already be in your feed. You just scrolled past them last week. I leave you with the aphorism, a man with one watch knows the time. A man with two watches is never sure. Tomorrow we tie this all up with the effort equation and how to increase your odds at successful dating. This morning for our commemoration, let's take a quick look around the world, because November 28th carries a surprising mix of independence, reflection, and yes, breakfast. Today marks Albania's Independence Day, celebrating the moment in 1912 when the country broke free from the Ottoman Empire after nearly 5 centuries. It's a day of red flags, double-headed eagles, and fireworks over Tirana, all in honor of national pride and self-determination. Over in Romania, people in Bukovina celebrate Bukovina Day, remembering the region's reunification after World War I, another reminder of how fragile and precious borders can be. And halfway across the globe, Timor-Leste, or East Timor, honors its proclamation of independence, declared in 1975 after years of Portuguese rule. That freedom was short-lived before an invasion, but the day still stands as a symbol of resilience, proof that nations like people sometimes have to reclaim their voice more than once. Now back here at home, it's Black Friday, the unofficial start of the holiday shopping season, when discounts battle self-control and wallets everywhere take a deep breath. But there's also a counter-holiday today, Buy Nothing Day, a quiet protest against consumer frenzy, inviting people to spend time instead of money. And if all that sounds a little intense, there's one more light note. It's National French Toast Day. So, whether you're celebrating independence or simply your breakfast, today's a good reminder. Sometimes freedom tastes best with cinnamon and syrup. From muscle recovery to mental logic, today's show was all about resetting the system, body, mind, and even policy. We saw how touch can heal, how reason can guide, and how emotion provides balance to logic, even as the world wrestles with chaos and choice. So, Wherever you are this morning, breathe deep, move with intention, and remember freedom in every form starts with awareness. This is Handel for the brief wake up. Enjoy your post-Thanksgiving shopping if you partake in that. And continue to be calm, kind, and curious. Till next time.